Ever since my teaching days in Catula, Texas, I worked for the education and the progress of the Spanish-speaking people of this great country of ours. I knew many little boys just like Juan. Juan is a Mexican-American. You'll notice that I emphasize American. Later, when I became president, I created the Mexican Affairs Committee in 1967. That committee is made up of some of the ablest members of my cabinet. It's the highest level committee that I could possibly name, because the Spanish-speaking people, I think, need to get closer to their government and to get action from their government and get action from the private agencies. They must have some focal point for help in solving their very special, unique problems. I named Vicente Jimenez to the chairmanship of the committee, and I instructed him to try to find the answers to the many problems that we'd already found.
He asked me, Vicente Jimenez, a Mexican-American, to serve as chairman. I accepted this responsibility with a profound sense of the size of the task the President gave me. The President said we must, first, assure that federal programs provided the assistance Mexican-Americans and other Spanish-speaking people need. And second, seek out new programs to handle problems that are unique to our people. We put together a small staff for the Interagency Committee to help the cabinet members probe, push, and prod. Everyone agreed that the government and the people should sit down face to face to see what must be done. So we set about organizing hearings at which ideas could be presented for action by the government, federal, state, and local. We decided that there had been enough of letters and visits to Washington, of trying to find one's way through the government departments. We decided to take the government to the people.
So to speak, to the people, rather than always having the people come to the government. And I have always felt that this was the better way. We're here for solutions, and not just to have a sad report, once again, of the many, many problems. We're here to talk about opportunities, and not just the difficulties. This Mexican-American finds himself with an unemployment rate that's almost double the average for this area. That's not right. He suffers historic injustices, because his forefathers were driven from their Spanish and Mexican land grants. His children, all too often, attend segregated or semi-segregated schools. They get, on the average, 5 years less schooling than other Southwestern children. Our Mexican Americans have clearly determined that they will do whatever they must do to help themselves. This conference will be noted for one fact above all others, that a proud, self-respecting people of dignity are determined to do things for themselves. All they're asking for is the cooperating, helping hand of government to help them get the program started. There is one phrase and one word above all that characterizes America and what it means and what it stands for. Not just freedom, not just liberty, not just wealth or power, but the word that characterizes America's hope and dream and promise is opportunity. Opportunity, that's what we want. That's what mankind wants all over the world, the opportunity to make something out of himself.
The government did come to the people. For the first time in American history, members of the President's cabinet sat down outside of Washington, in El Paso, Texas, to talk over the problems of one group of people, the Spanish-speaking people of our nation. At El Paso were Orville Freeman, Secretary of Agriculture, James Reynolds, acting for the Secretary of Labor, John Gardner, Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, Robert Weaver, member of the Cabinet for Housing and Urban Development, Sergeant Shriver, the President's Director on the War on Poverty, John Macy, responsible to the President for Federal Employment Policy, several scores of other high officials from every department and agency that could help solve Mexican-American problems came to the hearings to listen. And say to them, look, when you come to that particular area, you must remember that here is a bicultural, bilingual individual.
Spanish-speaking people in the Job Corps staff, there's no question about it.
Have more Mexican Americans on our compliance investigation staff.
I think it has to be oriented towards our value system and the way we work.
All the needs of the child. Education is just one of his needs.
At the offset, I want to say that I reserve the right to fight, scratch, and bite for more funds.
And rest assured that I will be knocking on your door to see that such commitment is fulfilled.
1,200 Mexican Americans came from all over the country, not to talk problems alone, but recommendations, solutions, action. We talked about better health programs, better education, more jobs in private industry and in government, job training, better wages for Mexican American farm labor, halting the unfair competition of non-citizens brought into the country as farm labor, housing projects. Everything that was suggested in a year of careful consultation with Spanish-speaking people all over the country was talked about in terms of getting something done now. There were more than 50 general sessions and workshops during 3 days. The discussion was frequently hot-tempered, and why not? Grievances of centuries were put out on the table with recommendations on what to do, and the government officials listened and asked questions and asked advice, and they got it. The Interagency Committee, the central place in all of the government where the Spanish-speaking are assured of an immediate hearing and action of special problems.
Good morning, may I help you?
Good morning. My name is Hector Rodriguez. I'm here to see Mr. Tom Tellez.
Just a moment, please. There's a Mr. Rodriguez to see you. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Ah, Mr. Tellez?
Yes. ¿Cómo estás?
Héctor Rodriguez.
A servirle, pase.
Gracias.
After the El Paso hearings, the officials in Washington called in their top staff, issued directives, took action on Mexican-American problems, more directly, more rapidly than ever. How would we go about getting bilingual people to get employed by the Border or the Immigration Naturalization Service?
Well, I think the way to do that is for you and for me to go and talk with Ramsey Clark, the Attorney General. He's very sympathetic to the program that we're seeking here.
Around the country, hundreds of projects in existence under regular programs were beefed up. Dozens of new projects started. Projects in rural areas all over the nation, projects in the barrios of the cities, from Los Angeles to New York, in the small towns of the Southwest. Wherever Spanish-speaking Americans live, there is new opportunity.
One day after the conference was over, I conferred with a number of top-flight policymakers in the Department of Labor. They heard my story. I told them what the foundation did for the Mexican American. I explained to them that this was the first time that a Mexican American organization had developed expertise in the area of manpower. I told him that we have Mexican Americans developing programs for Mexican Americans. I told him that for the first time we had received degrees of recognition But that wasn't enough. I met one afternoon with a distinguished gentleman that was here not too long ago, Mark Battle. We talked about new careers. We talked about what kind of a program we could develop for Mexican Americans in this area. He said to me that he, as a person, and the administration was willing to give us an opportunity to get a new program off the ground. And now I tell you, enrollees, I expect you to do your utmost to see that you fulfill your responsibilities as enrollees in this program. This is the first for the foundation. This is the first for the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation.
Last year I made about $2,800, which is not enough. See, I have a family to support, 2 kids and a wife. That's not enough for me. So I went to this SAP program. They recommended me to MAOF. MAOF got me this job, and it's been great ever since. When I came here, it's a brand new world for me. I learned like this kid is learning right now. I didn't know nothing from the start, but I was willing to learn something. So I was tired of working here and there and learning nothing. So here, now I'm teaching these kids to learn something, give them a chance to learn something, in other words. And he's doing great now. Now I'm a foreman. I'm in charge of 72 people. If I can do it, somebody else can, because I don't think of myself as a real smart guy. Well, now it looks like I'm going for a supervisor, and it's going to be more responsibility. But I don't think it's going to be too hard for me. He hasn't been hard, so I'm being willing.
Today, I'm a skilled worker for LTV Aerospace Corporation, and I get a regular paycheck. About a year ago, I was living in a little town like this in the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. There were thousands of us in the valley with very little education and no opportunity. About the only jobs in the valley are in the field, and even these are being taken over by machines. Then the government gave us a chance. I met the qualifications and entered a training program. They taught me how to rivet, how to read blueprints, how to do sheet metal work. This was the only graduation most of us ever had. My job is to build this A-78 airplane for the Navy. It's a good job because I was well trained. Most of all because it gives me an opportunity to produce and to give something in return for what I have received. Many of our people have been through this training program. We are grateful because now we have no limits. As we work, we learn, and we see progress in our paychecks and the responsibility of the job. We are growing. Today, I look at my children, and I know that they will finish high school and maybe some college, and their children will do better than them. I see my family, and I know the chains are broken.
Home Education Livelihood Program is an adult education program in rural communities, leading to economic development through the development of new skills, the organizing of production facilities, and the refinement of traditional skills such as weaving. There are 7 people working in this shop here in Truchas who before this worked in odd jobs and seasonally. They wove in their homes and had a difficult time making more than 50 cents an hour for their work. Now, through the organization of the village shop, they're making $1.60 an hour and producing a very beautiful merchandise that is highly saleable. It's a new industry for the community. Alfredo Cordova is a weaver who's been doing this all of his life, but he has not really been able to devote full time and attention to it because he doesn't make enough money from weaving when he's weaving at home. His wife weaves, and his young son weaves. But now, both Mr. Cordova and Mrs. Cordova are making $1.60 an hour or better in a stable job in the Truchas weaving shop. The concept that I think HELP has developed is that you start off with a human development approach, which in turn results in community development through the strengthening of the economic base of the community so that people can make a decent living. In this sewing project, HELP originally started with literacy and sewing combined education program for the women. Later, the flag makers, which were being used by the state to make their flags, were paroled from state prison, and there developed a shortage of flags. So now, these women in Peñasco are producing flags for the needs of the state and are selling them, which is a new industry for Peñasco.
We started talking about forming a co-op, farmers co-op, and since last January, finally we got to the point where we are now. We got 23 members. Until now, we were growing only hay and we weren't making any money at all. So we switched into row crops. We started planting this year potatoes, carrots, cabbage, onions, red beets, and garlic. We got about 240 acres in all these crops. We got 2 sets of tractors about the 1st of May with money loaned from HELP. We tried to get a loan from the FHA and we were turned down, so finally HELP loaned us the money until we can get a loan somewhere else.
HELP is financed by the Office of Economic Opportunity and the Ford Foundation, and as a result of HELP's efforts, people have organized their own credit unions to solve their finance company problems. 6 community libraries have been developed at no additional cost to the federal government. 90 families are building their own homes through FHA financing. 3 small farm co-ops have been organized to help people make more money off their own land, and 3 rural industries are employing 50 people.
This building belongs to the Peñasco School Independent District and is leased by HELP. And when we got this building, it was in pretty bad condition. We have been repairing it, putting in doors, painting it, and plastering. And this building is where we teach auto mechanics and basic education. This gives us a chance to teach these men how to overhaul a motor tractor. And now they're going to pull off the head on the motor. They're going to pull it apart and give it a complete overhaul. And this program that we got here, and the co-op is going to help the whole community economically, not only the members, but the rest of the people. Because we believe this is going to bring more money into the valley so they can hire help.
Before we had a neighborhood health center, we had to take city buses all across town to the clinic at the general hospital. When we got there, we would wait as long as 4 hours to see a doctor we had never met before, and probably wouldn't see again the next time we came. Going to the doctor meant losing a day's work, so we didn't go very often. Now we have the center, which is near where we live. Here, there are people on the staff who come from the neighborhood and can understand our problems And we can get to know the doctors too. I am on the staff here. I help people to get what they need from the center. We have doctors, dentists, psychiatrists and social workers, and even our own drugstore where you don't have to wait hours for your medicine, and someone will explain what the label says if it's hard to understand. The center also is a place where you can find out about other services offered by the government, or get your problems before the Community Action Council, which meets here once a week. Before I had this job, people would come to me for advice and I wouldn't really know what to say. Now I have learned that there are ways to help.
This is an old house for an old man. We've been fixing it with a bunch of boys that are training us. I've been here for over 2 years training them so they can learn a skill to work and learn to live. And these boys that are working right here, it's pretty hard for them to find jobs so they can learn their living. And they've been dropouts from school, so it's pretty hard for them to find jobs. That's why this skill is good for them. And when we finish with this house, it's going to be look as new as the other one the neighbor had.
Project Machos is a self-help organization program. We got together and formed a corporation for the poor people, and our need was cheaper groceries. We found out that the prices were too high. So we went into different groups, areas, and organized our people and set up buying clubs. We set these buying clubs by raising funds and buying commodities at wholesale and selling the commodities at cost. We continue seeing the need, and then we asked for funds from the United States government to pay salaries and the rents of our 2-room apartments. And then we got a list from our people and started our cooperative on June the 21st. We have been in existence 7 weeks. Within that period, we had the highest sale in one day, $130, and we averaged about $350 a week. At the end of the year, we'll get together and count our money and decide whether we want to expand or give dividends. We will continue our store without any more help from the government. We will be on our own.
I run a bus service out of the East Los Angeles Service Center to the Space and Missile Systems and the Defense Contract Division of the Los Angeles Air Force Station, which gives our young people of East Los Angeles, and these are students, an opportunity that they have not had before. It would have taken, on normal transportation, 5 hours on a bus and 8 transfers a day for them to reach the job site. It was possible to get this transportation program through the efforts of many people in the community. The principal supporters of the program, of course, being the office of Vicente Jimenez in Washington, that helped us overcome many barriers. And this is the opportunity that our young people have needed for many, many years.
We have a 16-year-old boy who's earning $66 per week. He's helping his mother, who is divorced, and he's also helping support his 13-year-old brother. And this young fella would probably be without this job, without this transportation, back home doing nothing, idle. Now, he desires to go back to school, and he will come September, and he will take up political science.
Busca. This is a place where people learn to help themselves. A place where the seed of pride is given a chance to grow. A place where people can come together to learn their heritage as Mexicans, to become better Mexican Americans. I am an intern with the Teacher Corps. I am here to help. These are classes in Spanish. Mrs. Gutierrez is from the community. She and I are working together to offer these children their sense of identity.
¿Cómo dice la mamá? La mamá dice buenos días. ¿Cómo dice la rana? La rana dice buenos días.
Juan, por ejemplo, tú puedes ayudar a Gloria y yo voy a ir repasando lo que han escrito, ¿no?
Yo ya acabé.
Though we have classes for people of all ages, it all begins with the youngest ones, as they work and play together, as they learn that they can become able. This is where the future is, and this future can only begin when we are solidly rooted in our past.
Juan is but one boy. He and his friends are only a handful of the children of the 10 million Spanish-speaking Americans. We live in a precarious period, and yet in the very ferment of our day, there is a strong promise of the future. The improved skills and talent and heritage of the Mexican Americans will enrich our culture. We are seeing an awakening which will give new meaning to the lives of all of us. And in the words of the Vice President of the United States,
our purpose is grander than simply guaranteeing every Mexican American the opportunity to achieve a decent American standard of living, even though that's a worthy goal. We're talking about providing a material basis on which a cultural tradition that is precious to America can grow and flourish. This country admires and desperately needs this tradition today.
I think much was done at the El Paso hearings, but so much yet remains to be done. The important thing is that we have started a new program for the Spanish-speaking people of our great country. And I'm so proud, so very proud that it's taking place in my time.